That Halloween night, the biting cold of Ohio seeped through my thin jacket as I stood before the glossy oak door. The phone in my hand was still warm from my grandfather's brief call. "Ryan, come over right now. I am at your parents' new house," he had said, his voice brimming with joy, as if he were waiting to share a wonderful secret. Grandpa William, a successful businessman always busy with his construction company in Chicago, rarely had time to visit. Just the thought of seeing him made me smile despite the bone-chilling cold of the late October night. I pushed the door open, and immediately the warmth from the fireplace and the savory aroma of roasted meat enveloped me. Grandpa sat at the head of the dining table, his eyes sparkling like stars when he saw me. He stood up and hugged me tightly, his familiar woody cologne making me forget all my exhaustion in an instant. "Ryan, do you like this house?" he asked, his voice full of pride, as if he had just handed me a priceless treasure. "Yes, it is a beautiful house, Grandpa," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "But it is my parents' house." A moment of deafening silence followed. Grandpa's face stiffened, his eyes widening as they darted from me to my father, David, then to my stepmother Susan sitting across the table. My father, who always maintained a calm demeanor, suddenly turned pale, his hand trembling as he held his wine glass. Susan coughed, forcing a strange smile, but her eyes glinted with panic. "Your parents' house." Grandpa repeated, his voice dropping as cold and sharp as the night wind outside. "Ryan, explain yourself." I did not understand what was happening, but a sense of unease surged within me. I glanced at my father, waiting for an explanation, but he only lowered his head, avoiding my gaze. Susan quickly interjected, her voice trembling. "William, there must be a misunderstanding. This is the family's house." But Grandpa did not look at her. He looked at me, and in that moment I knew a terrible secret was about to be revealed. "Hello, my name is Ryan Walker. The story I'm about to tell is about the years I lived in the shadow of injustice, sidelined by my own family. If you have ever felt like you did not belong anywhere, like you were treated as an outsider, then perhaps you will understand me. But even if you have not, I still want you to hear this story. A story about a boy who grew up with a heart full of scars, and how he found light amidst the darkness. I was born in a small suburban town in Ohio, where the streets were lined with golden leaves in the fall, and everyone knew each other like family. But my family was different from the others. My mother, Emily, passed away shortly after giving birth to me due to medical complications I still do not fully understand. All I know is that she was the only light I never got to meet. My father, David Walker, was a stern man who always kept his distance from me, as if my existence was a reminder of the pain he wanted to forget. When I was 3, my father remarried Susan, a woman with a cold smile and calculating eyes. They had a son together, Kevin, or Kevin as everyone called him. Kevin was the center of their world. To my father, Kevin was the pride and the future of the Walker family. To Susan, Kevin was everything she lived to protect and spoil. And me, I was the stepchild, the unwanted kid, the faint shadow in the house I called home. From a young age, I felt the difference. When I was 5, I remember sitting in the corner of the living room watching Kevin receive a remote-controlled toy car, the kind every kid dreamed of. I got a used plastic car with chipped wheels, which my father said was good enough for me. "Kevin needs new things to develop his intellect," Susan said, as if I was not worthy of anything better. When I got high grades at school, my father would just nod and say, "Not bad, but do not get complacent." Meanwhile, if Kevin got a C, the whole house would celebrate as if he had won a Nobel Prize. I was not a jealous kid. Honestly, I just wanted to be loved, to be acknowledged even just once. But as the days passed, I realized that in my father's and Susan's eyes, I was never good enough. Susan would say things like, "Ryan, why do you not try to be more like Kevin?" Or, "You should be grateful to live in this house." Those words, no matter how softly spoken, cut into me like knives. I started to wonder, was I really a burden? Was I truly unworthy of love? Our family was not poor, but we were not rich either. My father worked as a manager at a local finance office while Susan stayed home as a housewife, doting on Kevin like he was a little king. I was not allowed to complain because my father always reminded me I was lucky to have a roof over my head. But that roof never truly felt like mine. My room was a tiny attic space with a creaky old bed and a window overlooking a dark alley. Meanwhile, Kevin had a spacious room filled with toys and posters of famous bands. Once I asked my father why I could not have a room downstairs like Kevin, and he snapped, "Do not ask for too much, Ryan. Know your place." I grew up with words like those reminders that I was not important in this family, but I did not let myself drown in sorrow. I learned to smile, to pretend everything was fine. Even though a storm raged inside me, I told myself that one day I would escape the shadow of this family and prove I was not the useless person they thought I was. When I was 18, I graduated high school with decent grades, though no one at home noticed. I dreamed of going to college, becoming an engineer, or doing something to make Grandpa William, the only person who truly cared about me, proud. But that dream was quickly crushed. One evening, when I asked my father about applying for scholarships or loans for college, he looked at me with cold eyes. "Ryan, we do not have enough money," he said. "Kevin needs to be prioritized. He has great potential, and we have to invest in him." I stood there, stunned, feeling like the world was collapsing beneath me. Kevin, the brother who only played video games and hung out with friends, was the one chosen to fulfill his potential. I did not argue. I did not cry. I just nodded and left the room. That night, I lay on my old, creaky bed, staring at the cracked ceiling, and promised myself I would rise on my own. If my parents did not believe in me, I would believe in myself. I started working at a Target in town, first as a cashier, then as a stockroom worker. The job was not easy. Long night shifts working through holidays and dealing with difficult customers left me exhausted. But I did not complain. Every dollar I earned was a small step toward escaping my family. I rented a small rundown apartment with stained walls and a leaky faucet, but at least it was mine. I no longer had to hear Susan's snide remarks or see my father's disappointed looks. Meanwhile, Kevin was fully supported by our parents. He attended a prestigious private school, drove a brand new car our father bought, and never had to lift a finger. Once Susan came to the store where I worked, saw me behind the cashier counter, and smirked. "Ryan, this is what you are doing. Such a shame. Kevin will never have to do menial work like this." I gritted my teeth, forcing a smile, but inside I wanted to scream, "Why? Why was I not worthy of the same opportunities as Kevin?" Those years I lived in loneliness. I did not have many friends because I spent most of my time working and saving money. But I was not entirely alone. Grandpa William was the one bright spot in my life. He lived in Chicago running a large construction company. He was a man of work. Occasionally, when he had time, he would call me. Those calls were my lifeline. He talked about his projects, asked about my life, and always said, "Ryan, you are a strong young man. Do not let anyone make you think otherwise." I never told him how my father and Susan treated me. I did not want him to worry. And part of me feared that if I spoke up, he would think I was weak. Grandpa was the only one who told me about my mother. He said Emily was a gentle woman who loved books and dreamed of a fair world. He blamed himself for not being there when she gave birth to me, as work had kept him away. "If I had been there, things might have been different," he said, his voice choking. I did not blame him. I only wished I could have met her even just once to know I had been loved. As the years passed, I grew accustomed to my independent life. I learned to fix the plumbing in my apartment, cook simple meals, and keep my heart from breaking further. But deep inside, there was always an emptiness, the void of a family I never truly had. I did not know that while I was trying to build my own life, a great secret was being hidden by my father and Susan. A secret that would change everything. When I was 22, I was still living in my tiny rented apartment on the east side of town, working night shifts at the retail store. Empty mornings, simple meals, and interrupted sleep had become so routine that they no longer felt unusual. I did not have much, but I had my freedom, my own space, and a shred of self-respect that I had paid for with years of silent endurance. One early summer afternoon, while I was processing payments at the employee checkout, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Susan. "Come to the new house tonight. Address is 2785 Willow Creek, small party." I read the message 3 times, staring at the screen as if it would explain itself. I had never heard them mention anything about moving. There had been no hint that they were looking for a new house, and certainly no one had asked if I wanted to move in with them. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to act as if nothing had happened. But then I thought maybe this was a chance to reconnect even just a little, even if it was just a polite gathering. I wanted to go, maybe to congratulate them, maybe to prove that I was no longer the sullen, quiet kid I used to be. I had changed, and I thought maybe they had too. I stopped by a small liquor store near the retail store and picked out an affordable bottle of red wine, then swung by the embroidery shop to collect a handkerchief I had ordered the previous week. A small gift with the initials RW embroidered on it. I did not have much money, but I wanted the gift I brought to be thoughtful. The new house was in a newly developed residential area on the north side of town, a place I had never set foot in. As my car turned onto a street lined with newly planted maples and manicured green lawns, it felt like I was entering another world. 2-story semi-class houses with wooden doors, gray-tiled roofs, and red brick steps. Everything exuded a sense of abundance and order that I had never felt in our old house. I parked in front of the house with the address Susan had sent. It was a cream-colored home with a stone-stepped front yard, a wide porch, and arched windows overlooking a garden. I got out of the car holding the bottle of wine and the gift and stood still for a few seconds in front of the door. For some reason, my heart was pounding, not out of excitement, but because an indescribable feeling stirred within me as if I was about to step into something that did not belong to me. Susan opened the door. She was wearing a silk dress, her makeup meticulously done. "Oh, Ryan, come in," she said, her smile as thin as the layer of blush on her cheeks. I stepped inside and looked around. A spacious living room with glossy wooden floors, a granite fireplace, beige armchairs, and a classic chandelier. Family photos already hung on the walls. My father and Susan's wedding picture. Kevin holding a sports trophy. No photos of me. I was not surprised. My father was in the kitchen opening a bottle of wine, dressed in a white dress shirt, looking more relaxed than usual. When he saw me, he gave a single nod. "Oh, you are here." Nothing more. I handed over the wine and the gift, saying, "Congratulations on the new house, Dad." He took them, set them on the table without opening them, and turned away. The party consisted of just a few people, new neighbors, an older couple who were friends, and one of my father's colleagues. They chatted animatedly about the neighborhood rising property prices, interior design, and the pool they planned to build in the backyard. I sat in a corner, silent, listening. No one asked where I was from. No one noticed that I poured myself water instead of wine. "We had to search forever to find this house," Susan said to the person next to her, her voice brimming with pride. "Luckily, we closed the deal just before the market prices shot up. David has a great eye for houses." My father nodded, smiling, not denying it. I sat there trying to smile along. I genuinely wanted to congratulate them, not for the house, but because I believed they had finally found something that made them happy. I did not know that in that moment I was congratulating them for taking a gift that rightfully belonged to me. That night, when I returned to my rented apartment, I opened my phone intending to send Grandpa William a quick message to check in. But I hesitated. He was getting older and busy. I did not want to bother him. I set the phone down, lay on my bed, and stared at the peeling ceiling. Then I drifted off to sleep, completely unaware of the truth lying silently beneath my feet like an unexploded bomb. After the day I attended the housewarming party, everything seemed to return to its old rhythm, or at least the half-hearted routine I had long grown accustomed to. No one mentioned that day again. No one asked what I thought of the new house, and of course no one brought up the possibility of me moving in with them, but something strange started happening. From that point on, for every major holiday, Thanksgiving, Halloween, Kevin's birthday, even my father and Susan's wedding anniversary, I received an invitation to their house. They were not warm, heartfelt invitations, but curt text messages. 6:00 p.m., come for dinner. Kevin is looking forward to seeing you. We have guests. Be on time. I went not because I believed they had changed, but because I still felt the duty of a son. Each time I brought a small gift carefully chosen and wrapped by hand. But my gifts were usually set aside unopened in my presence, and no one offered a clear word of thanks. And the strangest thing was, they started pulling me into family photos. The first time was that Halloween. Susan called me over saying, "Ryan, stand closer to Kevin. We are taking a family picture." I was surprised, but stepped forward. My father stood in the middle, his arm around Kevin's shoulders. I stood at the edge of the frame, forcing an awkward smile. As the camera clicked, I felt like I had just stepped into a wordless play, and I was the supporting character thrown in to fill out the cast. In the times that followed, they kept pulling me into photos. At first it was with the whole family, later sometimes just with my father. Once Susan even placed her hand on my shoulder, smiling brightly. I did not understand what was happening. Before, I had always been excluded from moments like these. The photos hung in the old house never featured me. So, why were they doing this now? I asked once lightly after Kevin's birthday dinner. Why have we been taking so many family photos lately? Susan laughed and said, "Oh, we just want to capture memories. You are part of the family too, are you not?" I nodded, but my heart felt heavy. I was not naive. I knew something was not right, but I could not put a name to it. I only felt like I was being led along, forced into a fabricated frame I had never belonged to, as if I were playing the role of the harmonious eldest son in a photo meant for display, not as myself. And then, on Halloween, when I was 24, the truth finally came to light. It was bitterly cold that day. I had just finished my shift at 4:30 in the afternoon, sitting in my rented apartment, drinking coffee, planning to show up a little late as usual. Just enough to make an appearance, eat a few bites, take a few photos, and leave early. My phone rang. It was Grandpa William. "Ryan, come over right now. I'm at your new house, 2785 Willow Creek." "I wanted to surprise you." I froze. Grandpa was here in Ohio. He rarely left Chicago. His construction company always kept him tied up. I quickly threw on my jacket and rushed out the door. My mind swirled with questions. Why did he not tell me he was coming? And why was he at my father's house? When I arrived, the house was glowing with orange and purple Halloween lights. Plastic skull wreaths hung on the door, and the flicker of jack-o'-lanterns shimmered through the window. I knocked my heart pounding. Susan opened the door, her smile stiffening when she saw me. "Ryan, why are you—" She stopped, her eyes darting over my shoulder, and I heard Grandpa's voice from inside. "Ryan, come in, my boy." Grandpa stood in the living room, tall and imposing, his silver hair gleaming under the chandelier. He hugged me a tight embrace that carried both excitement and a hint of tension. "I wanted to surprise the whole family," he said, looking around. "This house. It is wonderful, is it not? Are you happy living here?" I hesitated, a wave of unease rising within me. I do not live here, Grandpa. I just visit." Grandpa's face changed. His smile vanished and his eyes narrowed,
shifting from me to my father David, who stood near the fireplace, a glass of wine in his hand. Susan quickly jumped in, her voice syrupy. "William, there must be a misunderstanding. Ryan likes living independently, do you not, dear?"
She looked at me, her eyes practically commanding me to agree. But Grandpa did not look at her. He fixed his gaze on me, his voice lowering. "Ryan, tell me the truth. You do not live here." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the entire room pressing down on my shoulders. "I live in a rented apartment, Grandpa, on the east side of town. I pay for it with my retail store wages." Silence. A heavy, suffocating silence, as if the air had been sucked out of the room. My father bowed his head, his hand tightening around his glass. Susan started to speak, her voice trembling. "William, we thought it was best for Ryan. He wanted to be independent, and Kevin needs space to—" "Enough!" Grandpa cut her off, his voice sharp as a blade. "David, explain yourself. 4 years ago I sent you $600,000 to buy a 3-bedroom house in this neighborhood. A gift for Ryan to give him a good start. I made it clear. The house was for Ryan. So why is he living in a run-down apartment while you and your family are living in that very house?" My father's face went pale, as if the blood had drained from his body. Susan opened her mouth, but no sound came out. I stood there stunned, feeling the ground crumble beneath me. A house for me. $600,000. I looked at Grandpa William, then at my father, searching for an explanation, a sign that this was just a misunderstanding. But there was no misunderstanding. My father set his glass down, his voice shaky, but trying to stay composed. I thought the house would be better used by the whole family. Ryan's independent. He does not need a big house like this. Kevin's young. He needs a good environment to grow to study." "Does not need," Grandpa roared, stepping toward my father. "You are saying he does not need it. Ryan, the grandson I entrusted to your care, is living in a run-down apartment working night shifts to survive while you and your wife live in the house that was meant for him. What did you do with the money I sent? You put the house in your name, did you not?" My father did not answer. He lowered his head, his shoulders trembling. Susan, regaining her voice, interjected. "William, you do not understand. Ryan is not my biological son. Kevin is the future of this family. Ryan, he does not deserve a house like this. He is just—" "Shut up!" Grandpa shouted, his voice echoing so powerfully it seemed to shake the room. "Does not deserve Ryan is Emily's flesh and blood, my daughter's son. He is my grandson, and I trusted you, David, to take care of him. But what have you done? You stole the gift I meant for him, deceived me with these fake family photos." He pointed at the picture on the wall, the one of the whole family in the living room with me awkwardly standing at the edge. "I thought Ryan was living happily here. I believed the photos you sent, but it turns out it was all a charade to hide your greed." My throat tightened. The photos, the times I was called over to pose for pictures, the staged moments I could not make sense of. It was all to deceive Grandpa William, to make him think I was part of this happy family. I looked at my father, waiting for an explanation, an apology, anything. But he remained silent, his eyes avoiding mine. "Ryan." Grandpa William turned to me, his voice softening but still resolute. "Go get your things. You are coming to Chicago with me. This house, I will make sure it belongs to you as I originally intended. And you, David, I will be speaking with my lawyer. You will answer for what you have done." Susan burst into tears, but I felt no pity for her. My father finally spoke, his voice trembling. "Ryan, I just wanted what was best for the family. Best for the family." I repeated, my voice calm but cold. "You never considered me part of this family. I have spent my whole life trying to make you proud, but all you ever saw was Kevin. You took away my chance, and you did not even bother to tell me the truth." I turned away, unable to look at him any longer. Grandpa William placed a hand on my shoulder, his eyes filled with pain but also unwavering determination. "Let us go, Ryan. You do not need to stay here anymore." The chill of Halloween night bit into my skin as we stepped out of the house that was supposed to be mine. The dim glow of streetlights illuminated the leaf-covered street, and I could feel my heavy breaths blending into the frigid air. Grandpa led me to a sleek black SUV parked by the curb. The driver, a middle-aged man in a sharp suit, opened the door for us. "To the hotel first," Grandpa said, his voice low but firm. I slid into the back seat beside him, feeling like I was stepping into a different world, a world I never thought I belonged to. "Are you okay, Ryan?" Grandpa asked, his eyes gentle but piercing, as if trying to read every thought in my mind. I do not know, Grandpa," I replied, my voice shaky. "Everything is happening so fast. I still do not fully understand." He nodded, placing a hand on my knee. "I know, but from now on, things will be different. You will come to Chicago with me. We will start over, just the two of us." I looked out the window, the orange and purple Halloween lights blurring past like faint sparks. Chicago, a city I had only heard about through Grandpa's stories where he built his construction empire from nothing. I had never been there, never thought I would have the chance, but now it was where I would begin again. A new life, a chance to escape the shadow of my past. The next morning, we took an early flight to Chicago. I sat by the window gazing down at the endless frost-tipped fields below, feeling like I was leaving behind an old worn-out world for a dream. Grandpa William sat beside me quietly reading a business newspaper, but every now and then he glanced at me with an encouraging smile. When the plane landed at O'Hare Airport, a biting Chicago wind greeted us. Robert Grandpa Williams' driver was waiting with the familiar SUV. We drove through the bustling city streets where skyscrapers towered overhead, their steel and glass gleaming under the winter sun. I had never seen anything like it. Ohio, with its narrow roads and modest houses, seemed to belong to another world. The car turned into an upscale suburban neighborhood where the streets were paved with stone lined with ancient oaks and sprawling mansions. Robert stopped in front of a large iron gate, beyond which a driveway led to a 3-story mansion surrounded by perfectly manicured lawns and vibrant red rose bushes, even in the middle of winter. My jaw dropped, unable to believe my eyes. "Is this your house, Grandpa?" I asked, my voice trembling. Grandpa William laughed heartily, clapping me on the shoulder. "Welcome to my home, Ryan. And now it is your home, too." Grandpa's mansion was not just a house, it was a palace. The carved wooden front door opened into a grand foyer with marble floors, a spiral staircase leading upstairs, and abstract paintings lining the walls. The living room was 3 times the size of my rented apartment, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a backyard garden, complete with a shimmering pool and an outdoor barbecue area. The scent of pine and leather from the luxurious furniture made me feel like I had stepped into a 5-star hotel. I do not know what to say," I whispered, standing in the middle of the living room, still clutching my small bag of belongings. "You do not need to say anything," Grandpa William replied, leading me upstairs. "Your room is here." He opened the door to a spacious bedroom with a king-size bed, a walnut desk, and a window overlooking the garden. A brand new laptop sat on the desk, and a soft, plush rug covered the floor. "This is where you can start over. No pressure, no burdens, just a fresh start." I sat on the edge of the bed feeling like I was dreaming. Just hours ago, I was in my rundown apartment with a leaky faucet and peeling ceiling. Now I was here in a room I would not have dared to imagine. But alongside the overwhelming awe was a lingering ache. The house in Ohio, the house that was meant to be mine, still felt like a thorn in my heart. That evening, Grandpa William took me to a fancy restaurant in downtown Chicago. We sat in a quiet corner, the candlelight flickering on the table. He ordered an expensive bottle of wine, but I only took a small sip, still unaccustomed to such luxury. "Ryan?" Grandpa William began, his voice low and serious. "There are things we need to talk about your father, the house, and what happened." I nodded, my heart pounding. I knew this conversation would not be easy. 4 years ago, I sent David $600,000 to buy the house in Willow Creek. I wanted it to be a gift for you, a foundation for you to build your future. I was busy with the company, unable to oversee the purchase myself, so I trusted David to handle it. I thought he would follow my wishes. He paused, his eyes darkening. But I was wrong. I clenched my fists under the table, trying to keep my voice steady. "So Dad kept the house for himself." "That is not all," Grandpa William said, his voice thick with anger. "I have been sending David money since you were a child, not just for the house. I sent money every year to cover your school fees, clothes, everything you needed to grow up in the best conditions. I thought David was taking care of you the way I wanted. But today, when I heard you talk about living in a rented apartment, working night shifts at a retail store, I realized he kept it all for himself and his new family." It felt like someone had punched me in the chest. School fees, clothes, the things I never had. All those years wearing hand-me-downs, eating instant noodles, and working myself to exhaustion to make ends meet. It could have been different. My father, the man I tried so hard to please, had taken not only the house, but also the opportunities Grandpa William meant for me. "I did not know about any of that money," I said, my voice choking. "Dad never told me. I thought he did not have enough, so I had to manage on my own." Grandpa William slammed his hand on the table, making the wine glasses tremble. "That bastard," he growled, drawing glances from nearby tables. "I trusted him with you, thinking he would treat you well. But he betrayed me, and he betrayed your mother, Emily." Hearing my mother's name made my eyes sting. I had never met her, but through Grandpa's stories I knew she was a gentle woman who wanted a good life for me. The thought that my father had stolen what she and Grandpa intended for me ignited a fury I could not suppress. "What are you going to do, Grandpa?" I asked, though I could guess part of the answer. "I am going to sue David," he said, his voice cold as ice. "I will make sure the house is transferred to you, and I will cut off all financial support to him. He does not deserve a single cent." I stared at the table in silence. Part of me wanted my father to pay to face the consequences of his actions. But another part, the part that had grown up in neglect and pain, just wanted to let it go. I was tired of living in resentment. I did not want my new life in Chicago to be tainted by lawsuits and disputes. "Grandpa," I said, my voice soft but firm, "do not sue him. I know you are angry, and so am I. But it has already happened. I do not want to drag this out. Cutting off his financial support is enough to make them realize they cannot keep taking advantage of you. I just want to start over here with you." Grandpa William looked at me, his eyes softening, though I could still see the pain in them. "Are you sure, Ryan? You have every right to claim what is yours." "I am sure," I replied. "That house, it does not matter anymore. I want to build my future, not live to fix the past." He nodded slowly, placing a hand on my shoulder. "You are stronger than I thought, Ryan. Your mother would be proud of you." The weeks that followed in Chicago were an emotional journey. I moved permanently into Grandpa William's mansion, and each day felt like I was learning to live again from scratch. Grandpa did not just give me a home. He gave me a chance to rediscover myself. He took me to visit his construction company, a modern building in downtown Chicago with bright offices and a bustling team of employees. He introduced me to everyone as William Walker's grandson. And for the first time, I felt recognized, seen as a person of value. "Would you like to try working here?" he asked one day as we stood overlooking a construction site in the suburbs. "You do not have to do big things right away. You can start with small projects. Learn as you go. I hesitated. I had never imagined myself working in construction with its technical blueprints and complex numbers, but the trust in Grandpa William's eyes made me want to try. "I will give it a shot, Grandpa," I said, "but I cannot promise I will be good at it right away." He laughed heartily. "No one is good from the start, Ryan, but you have heart and determination. That is all I need." I started working at his company initially as an assistant in the planning department, organizing documents and tracking project progress. The work was not easy, but with each passing day I learned to read blueprints, understand construction processes, and even began contributing ideas during meetings. My colleagues, who at first only knew me as the boss's grandson, gradually looked at me with respect. They saw me work hard, stay late to finish tasks, and refuse to rely on Grandpa William for special treatment. Outside of work, I began exploring Chicago. I walked through its lively streets, visited museums, and spent hours in coffee shops reading books or simply watching people pass by. For the first time in my life, I felt like I had time to breathe, to dream, to become a better version of myself. Though life in Chicago gave me hope, the scars of my past did not fade easily. Some nights I lay in the comfortable bed in my new room but dreamed of my old rented apartment, hearing Susan's mocking voice, or seeing my father's cold gaze. I wondered if I truly deserved this life, or if it was all a dream that would vanish. Grandpa William noticed when I grew quiet. One evening, as we sat by the fireplace, he handed me an old framed photo. It was my mother, Emily, smiling brightly, holding a small dog. "Your mother always wanted you to be happy," he said. "I could not be there for her when she needed me most, but I will not let that happen with you." I held the frame, tears silently falling. "I wish I could have met her," I whispered. "You are more like her than you know," he said. "She was strong but gentle. You have her heart." Those words were like a healing balm. I started keeping a journal, writing down my thoughts, dreams, and even my pain. I no longer wanted to run from my past. I wanted to face it, understand it, and let it make me stronger. One morning, about 3 months after moving to Chicago, I received a letter from Ohio. The envelope had no sender's name, but the familiar handwriting made my heart tighten. It was from my father. I opened it, my hands trembling. Inside was a single sheet of paper with short handwritten lines. "Ryan, I know I have no right to write this letter. What I have done is unforgivable. I was wrong to keep the house, to keep the money your grandfather sent for you. I let the pain of losing your mother turn me into a terrible father. I do not expect your forgiveness, but I want you to know I regret it. Susan and Kevin have moved out of the house. I am in the process of transferring ownership to you as your grandfather intended. I hope one day you can look at me without seeing disappointment. David." I read the letter 3 times. My emotions a mix of anger, pain, and a faint sense of relief. I did not know if I could forgive him. The years of being abandoned, treated as an outsider, could not be erased by a single letter. But I knew I did not want to carry resentment forever. I showed the letter to Grandpa William. He read it silently for a long time, then said, "It is your decision, Ryan. If you want to take the house, I will help you. If not, I will respect your choice." I thought about the house in Willow Creek with its green lawn and warm fireplace. It had once been my dream, but now I did not need it to feel worthy. "I do not want the house, Grandpa," I said. "I want to sell it and use the money to go to college. I want to become an engineer like I always dreamed." Grandpa William smiled, his eyes sparkling with pride. "That is my grandson." I enrolled in a university in Chicago, majoring in civil engineering. With Grandpa William's support and the money from selling the house, I began the educational journey I once thought was impossible. The first days at school were not easy. I was older than most of my classmates, and the complex technical concepts kept me up late studying, but I did not give up. Whenever I felt like quitting, I thought of my mother, Grandpa William, and the promise I made to myself. I would not let my past define my future. In Chicago, I also found new friends. People who did not know my past but liked me for who I was. I joined an engineering club where I met Hannah, a smart girl with a radiant smile who teased me for my habit of taking detailed notes. For the first time, I felt like I had a community, a place where I belonged. Grandpa William remained my greatest anchor. He was not just a guide, but a friend, always reminding me that I was stronger than I thought. Some evenings we sat by the fireplace, sharing stories about my mother, about the days he built his company, and about my dreams. The house in Ohio was sold, and the money was deposited into my tuition account. My father did not contact me again, and I did not reach out to him. Maybe one day I will be ready to talk to forgive. But for now, I wanted to focus on the present, on what I could build. 3 years have passed since that fateful Halloween night when the truth about the house and Grandpa William's money was exposed. Chicago has become my home, not just because of its bustling streets or towering skyscrapers, but because it is where I found myself. I am in my second year of college, majoring in civil engineering, and each day I feel closer to my dream of becoming an engineer, a dream my father once crushed with the excuse of not enough money. I found a community of friends, a clear purpose, and most importantly, a sense that I deserve what I have achieved. But while I was building my new life in Chicago, back in Ohio, my father's family, David, Susan, and Kevin, was falling apart. I did not know much about them over the past 3 years, except for a few rumors from old acquaintances in town. They said my father had lost his job at the finance office, that Susan no longer hosted lavish parties, and that Kevin, the pride of the Walker family, had dropped out of college after just 1 semester. I did not dwell on it. The past was the past, and I had learned not to let it pull me back. Until one day, the past came knocking. One late autumn afternoon, while I was studying for midterms in the university library, my phone buzzed. It was an unfamiliar number from Ohio. I hesitated, but answered. Susan's voice came through weak and trembling, devoid of the arrogance it once carried. "Ryan, it is Susan," she said, her voice faltering. "I know you are busy, but I need to talk to you about the family." I gripped the phone, a chill running down my spine. "Family." The word sounded foreign coming from her. "What is going on?" I asked, my tone colder than I intended. "We are in trouble, Ryan. Real trouble. I thought maybe you could help." I stayed silent, letting her continue. Susan launched into a long story, her voice a mix of desperation and an attempt to cling to dignity. After Grandpa William cut off all financial support, my father David lost his steady income. He had been fired from his job, unable to focus amid the family's turmoil. Susan could not find work, having never held a job since marrying my father. They had sold most of their possessions to pay off debts, but it was not enough. The house in Willow Creek, though, transferred to me and later sold, was no longer theirs to live in. They had moved to a small apartment on the edge of town, which Susan described as cramped and unworthy of our family. "And Kevin." Susan paused, her voice choking. "Kevin's struggling, Ryan. He is working at a burger place, but he is not used to it. He does not know how to handle things like that. He needs help." I let out a laugh, not out of amusement, but from the irony. Kevin, the spoiled little brother who was once treated like a king, now had to work to survive. Kevin, who had a new car, a room full of toys, and never had to worry about money, was now struggling in a job I had done since I was 18. I felt a fleeting sense of satisfaction, but it was quickly replaced by an emptiness. "Susan," I said, my voice calm but firm, "you are calling me for help after everything that happened. After Dad took my house, after you said I did not deserve it. You think I will forget the years I was treated like an outsider, like a burden?" Susan was silent for a moment, then spoke, her voice almost a whisper. "Ryan, I know we were wrong, but we are family. Kevin's your brother. You cannot turn your back on your family." "Family," I repeated, my voice laced with bitterness. "You and Dad never treated me like family.
You said I was not worthy. Dad took not just the house, but the money Grandpa sent for my education, for my life. And now you want me to help Kevin, the one who was always favored over me, no Susan. Let Kevin learn to stand on his own like I had to. Let your family figure it out. I do not owe you anything. I hung up my hand, still gripping the phone, my heart pounding. Susan's words echoed in my mind. Family. Kevin needs help. But those words no longer had the power to sway me.
Not after everything they had done. Over the past 3 years, I had not heard directly from my father, Susan, or Kevin. Bits of gossip from Ohio reached me through old acquaintances, but I did not seek them out. I was busy with my new life in Chicago, my classes projects at Grandpa Williams' company, and evenings spent talking with Hannah, my increasingly close friend. But those rumors, though I tried to ignore them, crept in like cold gusts from the past. My father, David, had once been a confident man, always maintaining a calm, authoritative presence in the family. He worked at the finance office with a salary that supported a comfortable lifestyle for Susan and Kevin. But after that Halloween night 3 years ago, when Grandpa William cut off all financial support, everything began to unravel. His company faced market struggles, and he, distracted by family tensions, could not hold on to his managerial position. He was fired 6 months after the incident and had not found stable work since. The savings he had accumulated from Grandpa Williams' money meant for me, had been squandered on luxuries. A new car for Kevin family vacations and parties to keep up appearances with neighbors. When Grandpa Williams' money stopped coming, they could no longer sustain that lifestyle. Susan, once proud of being the perfect housewife, could not adapt to earning a living. She had never worked, never needed to. Her skills were limited to hosting parties and shopping. When the family had to move out of the Willow Creek house, the house I sold to invest in my future, they relocated to a small 2-bedroom apartment on the edge of town, which Susan called unworthy. The apartment was cramped and run down with stained walls and a leaky plumbing system, a painful contrast to the luxurious house they once called home. They sold Kevin's car, his expensive toy collection, and even Susan's prized jewelry, but the debts kept piling up from mortgage loans to unpaid bills. Kevin, the brother once hailed as the future of the Walker family, dropped out of college after 1 semester. Accustomed to being pampered, he could not handle the pressure of academics or responsibility. Instead of continuing his education, Kevin took a job at a burger place in town. But that job, standing behind a counter, dealing with demanding customers and working long shifts, was something he was not prepared for. Kevin, who once mocked me for doing similar work, now faced the reality that he lacked the skills or patience to succeed in such an environment. His coworkers complained that he was slow, unfocused, and prone to mistakes. He was fired after 3 months, and since then bounced from job to job, never lasting long. I learned these details not because I sought them out, but through whispers from old acquaintances in Ohio. A few of Grandpa Williams' friends still in touch with him shared the story of David's family downfall as a cautionary tale. They said Susan was now trying to sell products online without success. My father worked part-time at an auto repair shop, but the income was not enough to cover living expenses. They lived in hardship, and for the first time they faced the reality I had known since childhood: scarcity and the struggle to survive. A month after Susan's call, I received another letter from my father. It was not an apology like the last one, but a plea. He wrote that the family was on the brink of bankruptcy. The apartment they rented was now at risk of eviction due to unpaid rent. Kevin, after being fired from his 3rd job, had given up on finding steady work and started hanging out with a bad crowd, drinking and causing trouble in town. My father wrote that he had no one else to turn to, that I was their last hope. He used the word family repeatedly as if it could awaken some sense of duty in me. I read the letter in my room at Grandpa Williams' mansion, sitting on the king-size bed I still was not entirely used to. Each word felt like a knife reopening old wounds. I remembered the years of being pushed aside, being called unworthy, being compared to Kevin as a reminder that I was never good enough. I remembered the nights lying on the creaky bed in the attic, wondering why I was not loved. And I remembered that Halloween night when I learned that everything I had longed for, a home, an opportunity, had been stolen by my father and Susan. I called Grandpa William and told him about the letter. He listened, his eyes darkening, just as they had that Halloween night 3 years ago. "What are you going to do?" he asked, his voice steady but not pressuring. He always respected my decisions, though I knew he was still furious about what David had done. "I'm not going to help them," I said, my voice firm. "They had their chance. Kevin had everything I did, not a car, a nice room, our parents' love. If he has to work to survive now, that is a lesson he needs to learn." I pulled myself up from nothing. "I do not owe them anything." Grandpa William nodded, saying nothing more. But I knew he approved of my decision. He had once wanted to sue David to seek justice for me, but I had chosen to let the past go, and now I chose not to let it drag me back. While David's family struggled in Ohio, I continued my journey in Chicago. I aced my midterms, and Hannah, my close friend, threw a small party to celebrate. She had become an essential part of my life, not just for her radiant smile, but for the way she made me feel like I was enough. I took on more work at Grandpa Williams' company, handling larger projects, and even leading a small construction job in suburban Chicago. Each step was proof that I did not need my father's or Susan's validation to succeed. I also began writing a book, not to recount my story, but to document the lessons I had learned about resilience, finding self-worth, and overcoming the scars of the past. I did not know if it would ever be published, but writing it was a way to heal, to turn pain into strength. One winter day, as I walked through downtown Chicago, I unexpectedly saw Kevin. He was standing on a street corner wearing a thin jacket, his face gaunt, and his eyes sunken. I stopped, unsure whether to approach, but he saw me first, and his eyes lit up with a flicker of hope. "Ryan," he called, his voice hoarse. How are you?" I nodded, keeping my distance. "I'm fine, Kevin. You?" He gave a weak smile. No longer the arrogant boy I once knew. "Not great," he admitted. Things are not like they used to be. Can you help me? Just a little. I do not have anyone else." I looked at him, remembering the times he was favored, the times I was pushed aside. "Kevin," I said, my voice calm but unyielding. "I had to stand on my own when no one helped me. You can too. Get a job. Learn to take responsibility. Do not look to me to fix what your family did wrong." I turned and walked away, continuing down Chicago's frost-dusted streets. I did not look back. Not because I did not care, but because I had chosen myself.